You don't have a job. You have shifts, 2 of them, sometimes 3, stitched together with bus schedules and borrowed time. $10,000 a year sounds like a number on paper. It isn't. It's a floor you're standing on that keeps tilting. You share a room with your cousin, not an apartment, a room, split down the middle by an old bookshelf that doesn't quite reach the ceiling. Dinner is whatever's cheapest at the corner store, eaten standing up because sitting down means admitting you're staying a while. Your phone screen has a crack running corner to corner, and you stop noticing it the way you stop noticing anything you can't afford to fix. You walk to the second job because the bus fare is one more thing you don't have twice a day. Your shoes know that walk better than you do. You don't dream in numbers yet. You dream in hours, how many you need to cover rent, how many are left over to actually live. There aren't many left over. There's rarely any at all. Sleep becomes something you schedule around work, not the other way around. You've learned to read exhaustion the way other people read weather. You can feel a bad week coming 2 days before it lands, in your knees, in your voice, in how long it takes you to answer a text back. The first truth, at $10,000, you're not living paycheck to paycheck. You're living shift to shift, and the gap between them is where all your worry lives. $10 an hour. You know the number, the way you know your own heartbeat. It's just there, running under everything. The grocery store, the gas pump, the conversation you dodge every time someone asks what you do. Take-home is around $1,400 a month. Rent eats $750 of it for a room in someone else's house, with someone else's rules and someone else's television bleeding through the wall past midnight. You've learned the sound of your landlord's footsteps well enough to know when to turn your own volume down. You've stopped calling your choices choices. The number decides. Gas or groceries? Data plan or the shoes with the sole peeling off since spring? Everything is a trade, and you're always on the losing side of it. You put $20 in the tank at a time, never more, because filling it means something else doesn't get paid this week. Standing at the register, your card gets declined, not because you're broke, because the deposit hasn't cleared yet. You step aside, refresh the app. The line behind you gets longer, and something in you gets smaller. Not about the money, about being watched while it happens. You've learned to keep your face still when that happens, like it's routine. It is routine. You stop scrolling past your old classmates' updates, new jobs, new cities, new lives moving in a direction yours hasn't found yet. Not jealousy. You just can't afford to look directly at it. It burns too clean. So you close the app and go back to the schedule taped above your bed. The first rule, at $20,000, you don't manage money. Money manages you, and it isn't gentle about it. You're average. Not the aspirational kind of average, the statistical kind. Degree, job, direct deposit every 2 weeks, and somehow doing everything right still just feels like doing enough. You've got a 1-bedroom in a fine neighborhood, a car that starts every morning, a fridge that's never empty. You can go out to dinner without doing math first. That used to feel out of reach. Now it's Tuesday, and it doesn't even register as a win anymore. One night, you run the numbers forward. Same raise, same job, 30 years out. You open a spreadsheet you've never opened before and let the formula do what your gut already suspected. The total is fine, survivable. Not once does the word exciting show up in the projection, and that absence sits heavier than you expect. You close the laptop and sit in the dark a minute longer than you meant to. Then you find out, by accident, the way you always find these things out, that the guy 2 desks over makes $80,000. Same hours, different title, barely different work. The gap isn't just 30 grand, it's a different apartment, a different car, a different Sunday. You replay every project you led, every deadline you hit, and none of it explains the gap. You start wanting more, and for the first time, it doesn't feel like greed. It feels like math you finally have the information to do. You start applying to things you would have talked yourself out of a year ago. The third rule: $50,000 is a mirror. It shows you exactly where you stand and exactly how far the next rung is. Something changes before your bank balance does, your mornings. Money isn't the first thought anymore. It's present, but it's stopped leading. You wake up thinking about the day, not the deficit. You upgrade the apartment, not luxury, just space. A second bedroom that becomes an office you actually use. A kitchen where you cook instead of order. You book a flight without waiting for a sale, and it feels stranger than it should. Your thumb hovers over the confirm button a second too long out of pure muscle memory. People start using the word successful around you. You don't correct them, but it fits like a jacket you borrowed. Comfortable, not quite yours. Because you already know what $100,000 looks like from here, and $75,000 still feels like the room before the room. You catch yourself doing the same comparison you used to resent other people for doing to you. The distance from your old friends stops being something you notice and starts being something you manage. Not on purpose, you just talk about different things now. And some conversations quietly stop happening, not because you pulled away, but because the topics simply don't overlap the way they used to. The fourth rule: $75,000 is where the noise finally drops low enough that you can hear your own thoughts again. 6 figures, the number people chase for a decade without knowing what's actually waiting on the other side of it. You expected a finish line. You got a hallway with more doors, and half of them you don't yet have the keys for. Taxes take a bigger bite than you pictured. In a coastal city, $100,000 is a decent title salary living a middle-class life. You're wealthy to your parents, average to your coworkers, and somehow still behind your neighbor with the newer car and the second parking spot you don't have. You stop mentioning the number out loud, not modesty, self-defense. Once people know, everyone's got an opinion about what you should be doing with it. Family calls more. Friends pitch business ideas over dinner you end up paying for. Strangers online tell you 6 figures isn't really rich, as if the number needs their approval to count. The jump from $75K to $100K doesn't feel like the jump from $20K to $35K did. That one changed your life. This one just changed your options, and options without direction is just a more comfortable kind of lost. You catch yourself wondering what you were actually chasing all those years, now that you've caught it. The fifth rule: 6 figures is a door, not a destination. What's behind it is a question, not an answer. Life visibly shifts now. A nicer apartment, a newer car, vacations that are actually vacations and not just long weekends nearby. You stop checking flight prices 3 times before booking. But the real change is social. You stop relating to conversations about tight budgets, not because you don't care, because you genuinely forgot what it felt like, and that forgetting sneaks up on you in small, uncomfortable moments. A friend asks to borrow a few $100s. To you, it's nothing. To them, it's everything. You say yes without thinking twice, and the way they thank you, too grateful, almost embarrassed, tells you exactly how far apart your lives have grown. Same city, completely different math. You start measuring life in freedom instead of paycheck. Could you take a month off, say no to a draining client without it costing you sleep? The honest answer is, almost, not quite yet. You catch yourself running the numbers on quitting just to see how close you are, then closing the tab. The sixth rule, $150,000 is where money stops being the topic and becomes the silence underneath every other topic. Different world now, different vocabulary. You're talking about tax strategy instead of tax refunds, portfolio allocation instead of savings goals. Your accountant costs more than your first car did, and you don't blink at the invoice. The people around you tend to earn similar numbers, not by design, just gravity. Nobody checks the bill at dinner anymore. Nobody suggests the cheaper option out of necessity. The word budget has quietly disappeared from your vocabulary, replaced by allocation. You quietly stop explaining your life to people outside this bracket. Not arrogance, the language just doesn't translate cleanly anymore. When you mention the tax situation, you watch something shift behind someone's eyes, not judgment, distance. The same distance you used to feel looking up the ladder, except now you're the one being looked at, and it's an uncomfortable seat to sit in. The seventh rule, the higher the number climbs, the smaller the room gets, and the smaller the room, the quieter it becomes. Money goes invisible. You stop checking prices, stop glancing at balances before you spend. Decisions aren't measured in dollars anymore, they're measured in time. What costs you hours, what buys them back. You start paying people to do things you used to take pride in doing yourself, just to reclaim the hours. New vocabulary shows up. Trusts, estate structuring, capital gains, words that meant nothing to you back when $10 an hour was the whole equation. You have a call scheduled with someone whose entire job is protecting money you haven't spent yet. The isolation is real, though it doesn't look like loneliness from the outside. It's something quieter. The version of you standing in a parking lot eating a $5 meal between shifts wouldn't recognize this life, and you're not entirely sure you could explain it to them without it sounding like betrayal. Some nights you try anyway, in your head, and the words never quite land. The eighth rule, $500,000 doesn't buy happiness, it buys distance from struggle, from old friends, from the person who once knew exactly what $10 an hour felt like in their chest. $1 million a year. Nobody at this altitude says the number out loud. It lives in tax filings and wire confirmations and conversations with lawyers who bill in 6-minute increments you've stopped questioning. You get invited into rooms where decisions get made, not for your name, for your judgment and your capital. That's a structural invitation, not a social one, and the difference matters more than you expected. People listen differently in these rooms. Not louder, faster, more literally, like your words carry weight they don't second-guess. The distance from $10,000 isn't financial anymore, it's psychological. You remember the parking lot, the declined card, the tank you filled $20 at a time, the way you remember a country you used to live in, familiar, foreign, yours once. You could describe every detail of that life and still not fully feel it anymore. The ninth rule, at $1 million, money stops measuring what you're worth. It starts measuring how far your decisions reach, and that changes everything they touch, including you. Somewhere, right now, someone is standing at a register watching a $12 charge decline. Their gas tank is on empty. They're refreshing an app, hoping the deposit lands before the line behind them notices. They think this is about the number. It was never about the number. It's about what the number quietly does to the distance between who you are right now and who you're still becoming. Every level on this ladder is the same person, wearing a different amount of pressure. The only question that ever really mattered is which level you're standing on today, and whether you're still climbing.